Hello, and welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast with your host, peak performance coach, Brian Bosley. Are you stuck on the hamster wheel of life, spinning and spinning, but not really moving forward? Are you ready to jump off and soar? Are you finally ready to sculpt your life? If so, you've landed in the right place. This podcast is created and broadcast just for you. All of you strivers, thrivers, and survivors out there. If you'd like to learn more about Brian and the Bamboo Lab, feel free to reach out to explore your true peak level at www.bamboolab3.com.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Bamboo Lab podcast. As always, I am your host, your humble and appreciative host, Brian Bosley. Today, we have a guest back by popular demand. Before I introduce her, I just want to share some analytics and read a heart letter. As of today, which we are recording on February 3rd, 2023, we are now being subscribed to and broadcast on 6 continents. And as of yesterday, thanks to Ecuador joining in, we are in 44 countries, 50 states, and 1,192 cities. So I think by the end of today, we'll be at the 1,200 city mark. So thank all of you amazing subscribers, Bamboo Pack listeners, and also to my amazing and inspiring guests. This is all on you, man. I appreciate you guys and the effort you guys are doing. Thank you for hitting that like button, giving us the ratings and the reviews you have, and sharing it with 3 loved ones. All right. Today, I'm going to read a letter that came in, not to me, but to one of our guests that we had on last week, I believe it was. We had Jimmy Smith on, martial arts expert, the unconquerable Jimmy Smith, and he got a lot of really good texts and emails, and he's been forwarding them to me. So this one was from somebody who knew him to Jimmy. He said, "Hey, brother, I listened to the podcast. It was a great story. I'm sure your words and experiences will encourage others to rise above and to fight to improve themselves and the lives of others as they encourage." Oh, sorry. And of course, you added that Jimmy Smith's sly sense of humor as bonus. The guy interviewing you totally vibed off of you and was right on point to recognize that you are a rare breed, honest and strong and good at the core. There are not many like you. So to that listener out there, writing that to Jimmy Smith, a guest on the podcast, thank you for reaching out to Jimmy. His podcast, as well as the last 3 or 4, have just blown through the roof. This month of January was by far our record month. We think September was our record month up until January, because September was an odd month. We did 6 podcast streams that month, and one of them just took off. So I thought it's going to be maybe quite a while before we overcome September's numbers. And as of January, we were up 27% from January to September. So we really rocked September, or January. And one of it was because of the guests we had on this past month. So we have on here today a good dear friend of mine and a former guest or on the podcast, I think like 3 weeks ago. By popular demand, we have Lisa McBride back on. Lisa is a single mother of 2 amazing girls, a working professional, and a certified independent health coach. She has always had the heart for service, community, and assisting others to win. 10 years ago, she was introduced to an amazing community and health program that not only changed herself physically, but in her energy, her motivation, and awakening to a new, healthier habits and a healthier relationship with her body, mind, spirit, and with food. She learned to break out old unhealthy habits and start new, healthier ones. She is passionate about whole body health and making change from the inside out. She shares her story because she gets it. She's been there, she's tried it, and she's faltered at times. But she believes anyone who is truly ready and willing to work towards their goals can change their life. So without further ado, for the second time back in the year of 2023, Lisa McBride, welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Well, thank you, Brian, for asking me to come back. I'm excited to be here.
I mean, honestly, and I told you this, your podcast has done exceedingly well, and it's so good to see it. And you tell your father that I am responding to his email. He wrote me a very nice email after listening to our episode together, and I'm going to read that this weekend and respond to him. So Bamboo Pack members out there, this is going to be a little different today, and I'm just pulling up some things because when I asked Lisa to come back, Lisa's this expert in health and food and whole body experiences and improvement, and we really didn't get a chance to talk about that much in the previous podcast. And I think because it's now February 3rd as of today, this will air sometime in the next 2 weeks, we're right in the middle of January or February. And we all know so many of you had New Year's resolutions. You set new wins, victories, goals for the year. And from everything I've read, only 9% of Americans hit their New Year's resolutions. And so if yours is revolving around your body, the whole body mind experience, and taking care of yourself and having a new relationship with food and your body, this is the episode for you. So we're not gonna be asking Lisa the standard questions that we do on this podcast. We're just gonna go through and talk to this expert on what can we do as people, humans, to kind of stay on track for the year. So it'll be structured a little bit more loose and free-flowing, but I think we're both up to it. Lisa, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could talk on this topic for hours. So absolutely, I'm excited to kind of share. And I feel like when I'm working with clients, a lot of it's one-on-one, and we do cover a lot over months and years, as you probably get with coaching. But I'm going to do my best to kind of give some key tips and like bullet points that people can really use practically to kind of help them with their goals, this year.
And Lisa informed me that her daughter was sick this past week, and that was the first time she's been to the doctor, probably other than just a wellness check, in almost 4 years. So clearly this stuff is working for her family as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa, I know when we talked, or you sent me some information of what you would like to share with the Bamboo Pack. You said you wanted to talk about 6 key foundational categories for building foundation for long-term success with your health. And I think you called them the 6 key macro habits of health.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk through with the Bamboo Pack what those 6 are?
Absolutely. I'll just kind of run down the list of them that we can kind of go over and touch on a little bit today. They're healthy weight management, healthy eating and hydration, healthy motion, healthy sleep, healthy mind, and healthy surroundings. And I actually was initially thinking I'll just like run from top to bottom and give bullet points on them, but I think I like to do it in reverse order, honestly. And I think it's because, so much of us will focus on the scale and the healthy weight and the eating and the, portion of our health, but really having an understanding that our surroundings and our mindset around it has a huge impact. So as we go through that today, I think we should just kind of flip that order, and start with like our surroundings in mind and go from there.
I like that. That's great. And for the Bamboo Pack listeners out there and subscribers, I will be including these in the text of today's podcast. So scroll down. Also, we'll be including a link so you can connect with Lisa and learn more about what she does, what she offers, and her theory and she can maybe talk with you on how you can make these habits that you are part of the 81% or the 90 or the 9% who actually reach their goals this year. Sorry, my phone's going to beep in and out. I do text my family, as I've said many times, that my podcast will be airing at this time. And then that was my son's text. He texts or calls about every podcast. He doesn't matter, man. He'll find me doing a podcast and he'll call or text. So Dawson, I'll call you back.
Timing is everything, right?
Yeah. I'll call you back, son, when I'm done with the podcast. Okay, do you want to start with that, or or do you want to start with the steps that you have for creating this better lifestyle? Or do you want to start with going through the 6 macro habits in reverse order?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the steps, because I think really the first step is making a decision. So actually, I'll kind of share a little backstory. I remember the moment for me when I made that decision. And it's usually, a lot of times people have a moment in their life where they're like, oh my gosh, I need to make a change, right? I need to make a shift. And for me, you talked about in the intro, it was 10 years ago. It was 2012. We had come back from a trip to Disney. We were actually there over New Year's. And I remember like scrolling through photos and seeing a picture of myself where I was like unrecognizable. I'm like, who is that person, right? And I remember just seeing someone who was tired and overweight and exhausted and frustrated. And that was like a moment where I'm like, something needs to change. So I think the first step is really making that decision, having that moment where, okay, enough is enough. Of course, as you mentioned, this is the time of year where many people have a health goal. And, we had come back from this trip in January and I did what everyone does. I started a diet. I don't even know what I did at the time. I'm sure it was some bad thing. And I just went on a diet and I was successful for a few pounds. And, I think come February, though, I was frustrated because I'd only lost a few pounds. I was hungry all the time. I was cranky all the time. And I realized that what I was doing wasn't working. And I had seen a friend, share about her weight loss success. And I reached out to her and I reached out to a coach and ended up losing 65 pounds in 7 months. And in that time, what I really learned was it's not about the number on the scale. I needed to focus on my mindset and my habits. And it all started with making that decision. So I think that's really the first step, is making the decision, and not just writing down like, I want to lose weight, but know why you want to lose weight is important. And the more personal you make that, using Disney as an example, instead of just saying like, I want to lose 30 pounds, say, have a goal of, I want to lose 30 pounds because I want to be able to go to Disneyland and ride the rides with my kids. I want to be able to walk for miles on end and not be tired and exhausted. So really focusing on the why you want to get healthy is really the first, I think, step in that. So asking yourself, what is it that you want? Why is it important to you? And writing that down.
I love it. You said that you had that picture. I can't believe, for one thing, 65 pounds in 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you, man. That's just it's not like you said, it's not about the scale. It's just about living a healthier lifestyle, which, as everyone knows, action, or not everybody knows, but motivation does not create action. Action creates motivation. So when you're doing things like that, you're taking care of your body, you're exercising appropriately, stretching, you're changing your eating habits and your mindset. Though that's a motivation, right? That action motivates you to do better in other areas of your life. It doesn't just affect your body. It affects your relationships with other people. It affects your professional success. I mean, it's such an amazing snowball effect. I remember, Lisa, I don't know how many years ago it was. When I go to my camp with my friends, there's always people taking pictures every time. And of course, I remember somebody sent a picture and said, "Who's this fat man?" And it was me. And at the time, I think I was, I'm 6 foot tall. So I think I weighed 212 pounds. It was just a brief period of my life, maybe 6 months of my life. I've always been about 190. And it was just like that was that picture. I said, no way. And I got down to 185, and I'm within a pound or a half a pound each week at 185. But that picture motivated me I'm like, I didn't realize that's what I looked like.
And it's amazing how often I hear that it is a photo. It was for me, and I think I was pretty successful. I remember like that trip hiding behind my kids or being behind the camera, because I knew. But I think that when you see that and you just own that, like, oh my gosh, I am in that place, right? Because nothing changes if nothing changes. And our desire to change needs to be greater than the desire to stay the same. And sometimes we have moments like that where it's like, enough is enough. Like, I'm not going to hide behind the photos anymore. I'm not going to hide behind my kids. But reality, I think you just have to be very honest with ourselves, right? And it sometimes takes those photos to kind of have those little reality checks. And I think I am also huge, and I think it's hard as a parent. I think I wasn't in a lot of pictures for quite a few years, and I didn't realize it until looking back. I'm like, oh, there's like probably a 5-year period of time where I didn't have many pictures of myself, because I think I knew where I was at, but I just didn't want to admit it. But then you said, what is it, the Tony Robbins quote, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, right? So I knew at that point, like, enough is enough.
So Lisa, I love that quote, by the way. Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. When you, would you recommend, so if a person's looking at becoming healthier, losing weight, embracing this much healthier lifestyle, would you recommend as a motivation that they put a picture up on their fridge of themselves looking disheveled, out of shape?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. So and I'll touch on that a little bit about our healthy surroundings too, because I think it's important to have those reminders in front of us all the time. So, going back to that example with Disney, we're actually planning a trip for May, which is kind of why I use that as an example too. But, I might actually put a lock screen on my phone of Disney. I might have pictures of my kids, because they're my why, in front of me all the time. Put it in your bathroom, so you see it every time you're getting ready. It's those constant reminders of why you want to get healthy. Because again, if you're like, oh, I just want to lose 30 pounds, which actually is like a lot of Americans and a lot of people, that's like the magic number of 30 pounds would make a big difference, right? But that's not sexy. That's not fun, just chasing a number on a scale. But when like you're going to show up better every day, if you're have the energy, that's what's motivating. So you want to like lead from that place. You want to believe that for me, I would want to imagine myself like walking down the streets of Disney on the rides, and making all of my decisions from that place, leading from that future self, and definitely envisioning yourself being successful in that. Because if you don't think you're going to meet that goal, you're likely not going to meet it. When they say like, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right? So you just want to know, like, yes, I can do this, and lead from that place. Yes, absolutely. Put up the pictures, tell people, write it down. Mm-hmm.
Is it important that people have a due date or a deadline of? Let's just say we're looking at weight loss as the one thing we can actually objectively measure is weight loss, or let's say inches around the waist or something, whatever it is that we're measuring. Is it important to have a date where you want to have that accomplished by?
I think it depends on the individual and what their goal is. I think our health journey is constant, right? So I think there's no end date per se. Like, I just think we always need to be working towards something. And that why and that something is going to shift. So once you're at 30 pounds, it's not like all of a sudden you can go back to the way that you were, right? So it's about creating those habits and then creating that, what's the next goal? And it won't be a scale, but maybe it's, you want, be able to do a 5K. So there might be a new due date, right? Or a new end goal. But I think if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So I think there's going to be constantly something that you could be working towards to help you continue to make those really good decisions. I love that, because I found whenever this was a few years ago, when I was going through, trying to get back to my peak weight is what I would consider to be at 185. And every day I was weighing myself. And it was kind of depressing, because some days I'd gain a pound and I thought, what the heck? I worked out, I ate right. But, but then when I got to 185, I do now. I just check it every week just part of my Monday. It's a Monday morning routine when I shower. But like, it's the same weight all the time. It's, I might go up 0.2 pounds, 0.5 pounds down a little bit, but so there's that motivation is gone. So now the motivation now has to be much deeper than just weight loss. And I think I just love that you said that. I love this quote, everybody. Your health journey is constant. It's constant. It's from this point on to the rest of your life. And to think about the habits that you can, if you do this every day, you do it for 6 months or a month or two or even a full year, great. You've had a good year. You've made your weight. Then the next year you put another goal out there and you forget the healthy lifestyle goal. Then you're right back to where you were within a couple of months. And if you do this every day, the rest of your life, it impacts everything. I'm going through some advanced training with a guru named Robin Sharma. And he talks about heart set, mindset, soul set, and health set. Instead of just mindset, but one of them is health set. And he said there's a lot of reasons why you want to stay healthy, family, for yourself. But as a professional, he coaches us that you want to be able to continue to create masterpieces much, much further and longer in the world. That's your competitive edge. Is you not only will live longer, but you're able to produce and create and live an active life much later than the people, your competition. Because if they're not doing what you're doing with your body and your healthy lifestyle and the nutrition and the supplements and all the other things that add up to that you're going to just completely outperform them. You're just going to pass them at some time in the road. And I think that's a good way to look at for a professional. And I know a lot of professionals, Lisa, and I know you do as well in your journey, where they're so focused on career and building wealth and building businesses that their health suffers.
And that's not a competitive advantage if your health suffers and you have to slow down, and you're never really working at your peak capacity or even anywhere damn near it if you're not taking care of your body.
Right. And understanding, I mean, I talk to clients too about how our health journey is like laundry. It's never done, right? And I feel like if you do a little bit continually versus like waiting until it's spring cleaning time, it's easier to manage. And, how we do one thing is how we do a lot of things. So if we can take little bits of control, it's like we can talk a little bit about surrounding too, understanding that, the environment we live in does impact, our health and our overall wellness. So if we have a chaotic living space, our mind's likely that same way, so like you were talking about on a professional level, like we want to take control over the things that we can control, because so much of our inner life is out of control, but there are things that we can have control of, and it will have a ripple effect like you were talking about in other areas of our life. So, yes, I totally agree with you on that one.
Can you go to that surroundings a little bit? That fascinates me because, the Atomic Habits with James Clear, he talks a lot about your environment, your surroundings determine your habits so much. Can you share with us a little bit about what could an average person right now say, okay, what can I do in my environment as I look around? What are some simple things I could do to make it more impactful for a healthy lifestyle?
I think there's two influences. For one, it's our surroundings could be our people and then our things. So I think who we surround ourselves with does make a difference too. We're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? So choosing those people wisely, finding mentors in our lives that, people you admire, listening to your podcast, putting people in front of us and around us that are constantly, helping us grow, I think is really important, and observing their habits too. If you have someone you do it, look up to, what are some of their habits? Are they showing up to work late? Are they, when you go to a work lunch, are they ordering the burger and the fries, or are they ordering the salad? So, things like that, you can start to observe habits of those around you that you do admire. And then surrounding yourself with people who support your goals is really important too. So if you have people in your life that are, helping you grow and helping you be more positive versus negatively impacting your life, spend more time with those people, surround yourself with those people. We find that in our health community, people who stay surrounded in that community are a lot more successful than those that try and do things alone. So because we're going to have setbacks, we're going to have bumps in the road, and you want people that are going to just encourage you versus sabotage you. So I would say starting with those people around you is important, but then also your physical location too does make a difference. So, look around your home. Do you have, is there a jar of cookies on the counter? Maybe put that away, if losing weight is your goal, or, when it comes to kids' snacks, if you find yourself, sticking your hand in the, kids snack drawer, they could go to a different place in the house, their garage, or walk a little farther, get that out from in front of you all the time. And just creating that disciplined environment, because we, self-control and motivation are only going to take us so far. It works short term, but it's really important to avoid the temptations and constantly trying to resist them. So when you look at your environment physically, you just want to take that into consideration.
I think put the cookie jars away is so important. And here, I'll give you a story where I failed on that one. I'm very, I guess, quirky about supplements and eating. I would say people would call me a boring eater. I primarily eat tuna fish, and I eat a lot of proteins and fruits and vegetables. And I don't go to the fast food restaurants. Maybe once a year we'll slip through one. But so I never have anything in the house like that. But Dawson has kind of a cupboard in the house because when he's home for Christmas break or weekends, he's lifting weights. He's 20 years old. He's bulking up. He eats actually really healthy, but he does have this. He wants to. He's adding more bulk. So I got up last week, and I got out of bed I went to bed at 7:30. And I was laying in bed. I'm thinking, I'm hungry, and I haven't had a junk food snack in, I don't know, months. So I got up and I poured myself a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles or Cocoa Krispy cereal with oat milk because I don't have regular milk in here. And then I got done with that, and I thought, hey, there's some Doritos in there. So I pulled out the Doritos and got the queso dip that Dawson had at the house the weekend when he was home that weekend. And I just sat there and dipped it. And I went to bed, and the next morning I felt like crap. And my stomach hurt. I felt sluggish. But I said, I kind of did it intentionally. I thought, I'm going to do it because I don't do it, and I just have a craving. And because I don't eat, I do a 16-hour fast every day. I eat at 5, and I don't eat again until like 9, other than I have a banana, or at 9 o'clock. I eat up a banana at 5 in the morning, and that's it. And so I don't eat more than two meals a day. And so this was like 3-4 hours after I normally would eat, and it impacted my day the next day so badly. But if those weren't here, if the cookie jar was hidden, so to speak, I wouldn't have done it. I would have maybe had an orange, or I probably would have just stayed in bed and gone to sleep. So I think that is so important. So,
and that's the thing is we're doing the shopping, right? So just don't bring things in the house that are going to be tempting you. And I think it's, it's hard because I know work with a lot of moms, and we've got kids. They're like, well, the kids see goldfish. Yeah, but does it have to be in your pantry where you're looking at it and constantly having to resist that temptation, or can you move it and just changing that habit? And I think it's like the nighttime snacking. That's a big one. People are like, I don't even know what I'm doing it. Well, just, like I said, making that few changes, just maybe not buying the things that are really hard for you to be resisting, and moving things in your own living space that might help you just kind of pause for a moment, and maybe you just need more wins and losses, right? You just need to be able to pause and, like in that midnight snacking thing, say like, okay, how is this going to make me feel if I continue, down this path and make this choice, and just stopping and pausing, challenging that feeling. Because very often we'll know, like, I'm going to feel like crap if I eat this, right? So, and I think, like I said, but just creating that environment is going to be really helpful, because like I said, we are going to have temptations. We are going to have things that we come up, but if we can create that environment where we're more likely to win, it just really, really helps long term.
I couldn't agree more.
And your kids don't need, again, kids can get away with a lot, but also you're creating a healthier eating for your kids too. If you have cut up vegetables in the fridge and they're hungry, be like, sure, go to the fridge. They'll start eating vegetables and fruit. So it's also great for the family.
Make the good stuff easy and the bad stuff hard. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who wants to do any further reading on this, go to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. He talks an extensive amount on this, and he is an expert on changing habits and creating habits and living habits. Really good book. I have a client, Lisa, in Kansas City, who for the last 2 years, one of his 3 goals that we work on every year has always been a health goal. And what he started doing that's worked for him is he started brushing his teeth when his kids do. Of course, they brush their teeth much earlier in the evening because they go to bed earlier. Mm-hmm. And so that's for him, that's after he brushes his teeth, he doesn't want to eat a snack. And his problem was he was eating snacks at night. And that's helped him. It's helped a lot. It hasn't been perfect yet, but it's helped him a lot over the last year or so.
Mm-hmm. And I do talk about that too with clients, is like, don't just focus on stopping a bad habit, but focus on creating a new good one, because we go back to those habits, right? Without even thinking about it, but by just changing that little shift, and just starting, that's like we'll go use a nighttime snacking as an example. If every night you come home from, you put the kids to bed and then you sit on the couch and you watch TV and you eat something, there's a couple of different approaches. One is, if you don't have the unhealthy snacks in the house, at least if you're snacking on something that's healthier. The other option is, and what works out for some is, maybe you need to change that evening routine, so that in our mindset, we're not like, okay, every time we sit down and watch TV, we think we should be eating Doritos or, Captain Crunch cereal, shift and be like, you know what, maybe I actually am going to put some AirPods in and take a lap and walk the dog. And then I'm going to grab a book, so it's just changing up that whole routine. that will then realize, oh, I don't have to have the nighttime snacking, because you associate that with the watching TV at night, So there's a couple different approaches that work well for some, and you just kind of have to see what works best for you. But those are two things I would say would be a great, starting there, either change the habit altogether or change what you're eating for that, nighttime snacking. So
I'm so glad you started with the healthy surroundings first, because I do think, that's something we can all right now in the next hour can control. We could literally get up and throw all the junk food out and throw it in the trash right now. Go to the store and get healthier foods and healthier choices. And what I found, Lisa, and I was just telling one of my clients this in the last 2 weeks, is since I've changed to a healthier lifestyle a few years ago, I don't spend as much money on groceries. And people, they think that eating healthier is more expensive. It's not. Granted, I'm only paying for one person other than when Dawson's home. So obviously I noticed my grocery bills are a lot smaller than they used to be, but I don't know if this is scientific, and you'll know if you had this experience, but when I'm eating healthier, I don't need as much food. Like I'll eat much smaller portions and I'm full, and I feel like I'm getting the minerals and vitamins that I need through the healthier portions. So I don't eat as much. Is that true? Is that just psychosomatic?
I love that you said that, because I would say, especially when I first start working with someone, they're like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford this? Because it's, you look at what all the organic costs and all this and blah, 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 or what it's going to cost to eat healthy. And I always say it's cost neutral for most, for many, but, because people do not believe me that they're going to save money. But I would say the majority of people that eat healthy end up saving money. For one, you're not eating out as often.
Right.
Because I think meal planning and prepping is key. So we're not just going to the store without a list and just putting all the things in there and throwing it all away, because, and we're not eating out as much. And usually not drinking as much, which, the alcohol budget usually shifts too. Yeah. So I would say the majority of people I work with end up saving money, and they're surprised by it. But it's, they usually circle back a couple months later and like, oh my gosh, I've saved so much money. I'm like, I know. What did I tell you? So I love that you said that.
Well, yesterday as an example, I was up in Marquette, Michigan, which is an hour away from me. That's where my son goes to college, and my daughter and her husband and my little boy, Jack, my grandson, Jack, live there. And I was up there for the evening and spent Wednesday night. So yesterday, before I left town, after my coaching sessions, I told Dawson I'll meet him at Marquette Nutrition. So this is a shout out to Marquette Nutrition in Marquette, Michigan, a little tiny boutique vitamin supplement and health food store. And they twice a week they make their own meals. They make meals that's all organic, it's all fresh, it's all gluten free, dairy free, and you could get all kinds, and it has all the contents right on there. So it's all fully natural. And I bought, I think, 12 meals. They make them, they put them in the freezer. You go and pick them up. And then I bought Dawson a couple meals as well. He doesn't have a big freezer in his dorm room, so he can't store much. And I told my daughter, I said, yeah, I just bought 12 meals. And I called her on the way home, and she goes, wow, that's a lot of money, Dad. If I was your financial advisor, I said, well, think about it. They were $8 a meal. I'm not going anywhere for $8 a meal. And they're the perfect portion, and they're healthy. They're all, I've never had one I don't like. And I'm getting 300 calories versus 1,200 calories in a meal. And I'm getting all the vitamins and supplement or the minerals that I'm looking for that meal. So, it's true. I do see myself spending a lot less money in eating better food. So, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Subway, Doritos, all those pop, soda, all that stuff, that's so expensive. And to me, it's a waste of money.
And if you think about the food industry, what they're trying to do is, you have things that are harder to, you're tempted with more because it's like the flavor and the color and everything, so if we can avoid those anyways, you won't have all the cravings for those things too, which is even better. And we can chat, because healthy eating, like you talked about, it's, you mentioned 300 calories versus 1,200 calories, or, and calorie in, calorie out does, is important, but the quality of the calories is really important too, right? So eating a Snickers versus eating a salad, they might have the same calorie content, but what kind of calories are you eating, So that really does make a difference too. So what you are eating, what you're getting at that location is probably, the nutritional value that you're getting in there is a lot greater than you would get if you were to go to a Burger Bill or a Taco Bell or so absolutely focusing on that health, on your nutrition is really, really important. But focusing not on just counting calories, but the quality of those calories. Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough, vegetables and, in that meal as well.
Well, as we're talking here, I'm drinking a protein shake, and I buy them. I make my own 5 days a week, but then I always have some bottled ones just so I can. And it's 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, but it's pumpkin spice. It tastes like crap, but it was on sale because it's pumpkin spice season's gone, so I bought a case of them. Boy, it doesn't taste good, but I drink them anyway. It's funny, Lisa. We were going to Hawaii last March, April, and we were at the airport, I believe, in Chicago, and waiting to fly from there to Honolulu. And I was laughing with a couple of people we were with. We were walking down looking for a cup of coffee, and there was a health food store opened up, and there was maybe 1 or 2 people ordering their food. And we went to the next kiosk, not kiosk, but the next restaurant in the airport was McDonald's, and it was, I bet, 35 people in line. I mean, I'm like, you guys are going to wait.
Yeah, no one's at the healthy food place.
No, 2 people. I'm like, if you just go 10 feet this way, you won't have to wait in line. You'll pay the same price, probably, maybe a little bit more in an airport, but you're going to get a lot better meal. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit now? We talking about the surroundings and how important that is. And that, again, that's something we can all make that change today. Can you talk a little bit about like the mind, the sleep, and the motion as the next few? I'm kind of curious about those. I've really been fascinated by sleep for one thing, but can you talk about mind and sleep and go down the order you want to on these?
Absolutely. So the healthy mind is actually one of my favorite topics, and I think it's actually where I learned the most. So probably why, because we often think about our health in just the way of healthy eating and healthy motion, but how we think and how we feel has a major influence on our health. And so I think the first step in that is self-awareness. Looking inward and evaluating yourself. I think, becoming aware of, as I mentioned earlier, not just focusing on stopping bad habits, but creating new ones, but being aware of what our habits are and our mindset are, asking yourself in a challenging situation, how are you handling that situation? Are you defensive? Are you closed-minded? Or do you stop and say, okay, good, this is a growth opportunity for me? You get a little curious, or do you tend to be just really negative? And I think just being aware of how you handle yourself in stressful situations, again, as you're standing I'm going to use the pantry as an example, as you stand there, ask yourself, how are you feeling right now? Why are you standing here right now? Is it because of a stressful situation? Are you putting your, hands in the cookie jar because your kids are driving you crazy, or you're stressed from work, or, so just that self-awareness of your mindset is really key. So, asking yourself and paying attention then to the physical signs. So we often have, in a stressful situation, we have physical signs and cues. We might notice our shoulders are tight, or, a shortness of breath. So just in those stressful situations, pausing, breathing, I don't know if you do it all, like we do box breathing in our house. I know there's a lot of different methods to deep breathing, but, we do box breathing when in stressful situations, which is 4 by 4. So you take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold it for 4 seconds, and physically changing your body, and then making a decision. And that's where we allow ourselves to stop and challenge and choose. So, and it works, so not only standing at the pantry, but as you're driving in your car, if you're in traffic and someone's, rattled you, breathing and and stopping in that moment and challenging that, reaction and making a better choice. Or, so like I said, with someone at work, if you're in that same situation, just focusing on your mind and how we're reacting is really important. And then focusing on your desired outcome. So instead of focusing on just that moment, pausing, but then, okay, what do I want out of this situation? So if we're again at the pantry, or you're dishing out the cereal, asking yourself, like, is that going to help me get closer to my goal of riding at the ride at Disneyland,
Right.
and losing that 30 pounds and getting in there comfortably? Or is that not helping me get towards my goal? So I think that is, like I said, and then just holding yourself accountable for that. We talked a lot about that in the last, podcast about that radical responsibility, but we really are responsible for our own health and our well-being. And so we may be tempted to blame others about certain situations in our life. But if we just know that the decisions that we're making in our day-to-day, and they really come back to us, which is also a good thing, right? Because we have control then. So if we, do check our head, check our heart, and stop and pause, we then can make decisions that help us lead us forward versus, backwards.
What did you call the breathing? Box breathing?
Box breathing is just like a square. So 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. So I just envision a box. And so, that's just how I, when I worked with my youngest kiddo went through anxiety for a while. And that was the biggest thing is we have that fight or flight, right? And so one of the first things we can do in a stressful situation is, de-escalate. So bring it down, and that helps our mindset, really just slow things down, level things out in our body. And then, that helps us when it comes to our decision-making process, because often we're just reacting versus like making a proactive decision.
I love that. And it's somewhat of a form of a meditation, or it's maybe. I had in meditation, I've shared this with so many people. I shared it with a guest we had on Monday. She's a energy frequency expert out of Saskatchewan. By the time this airs, she will have aired. But I told her that meditation scares me. And I don't know why. And so I'm really focusing now. I actually did it 3 times this week, which is the first time I've done it 3 times in a week in a long time. But I had a guest on, Lisa, in the summer, and he just finished a book on meditation. And he was saying that he looks at meditation as during the course of a day, it's like if you had a jar of water that you pulled out of a river, it's going to have sand and mud and dirt in it. And as you go around throughout the day, you're shaking that jar, and you look at it, it's just completely, you can't see through it. It's just gunk. But then when you slow down, like you said, you proactively do the box breathing and things of that method, that all that sediment settles at the bottom. And now you can see the clarity in the jar. And I think that was such a good metaphor for me to understand what I'm trying to do. It didn't really help much because I'm still struggling with meditation, or I do like the breathing is what I focus on. So I'm going to try this box breathing now. I think I like that because it gives me some structure so my mind doesn't wander as much.
And I know we talked a little bit before too, how we're both kind of wired all or nothing, right? Like meditation, it's going to be 30 minutes, 3 times. Well, just start with again, something small and then build up to it. I think it's like many things. It's just starting small. And then, over time, you can get to the place where you might be able to meditate for longer periods of time. Right. But it's a practice that I think many of us don't do, but when we know how we're physically wired, and like I said, we have the ability to slow things down, it does change our chemistry. Like I said, our heart rate changes, our blood pressure can change, so that helps us make a decision from a calm state versus a chaotic state. So
I love that.
Because I think, we were talking about mindset, and we think about our inner dialogue, right? Our inner thoughts. And a lot of that time we have a lot of negative thinking. We speak to ourselves worse than we would, or, we want to speak to ourselves like we would our best friend, right? But that's hard to do when we're spinning out of control. So if we can stop ourselves and breathe and say, okay, like, is what I'm thinking, is it true? Is it, is it coming from a good place? Is it helping me to work towards my goal? And we're going to have thoughts pop up into our head constantly. Right. And so, but it's important when we have these little tips and tricks and tools that we can just slow ourselves down, not just go down the rabbit hole. And just, like I said, we talked about like just self-awareness. I think that breathing helps us stop and become self-aware. Well,
you just give me a new lease on life with this box breathing, because I like that idea. I've only done 4 minutes at a time this week, and that's pretty much what I'm at right now. So next week I'll go to 5, then I'll go to 6, and I'll get up there. I know I read a book this year, and I can't remember. She's an amazing. She's a doctor of some, I don't know what type of medicine, but her book was on the brain and all, basically getting that sediment down so you can see clarity, and talked a lot about meditation. And she said the real benefit from meditation comes between the 12 and 20 minute mark, when you can get to that level. And the most I've ever done was 12 minutes, and that was because I had a personal hero of mine, Gay Hendricks, on my podcast this summer, and the author of The Big Leap and many other books. And I knew he had been on Oprah like 8 or 9 times, and here I was interviewing him. And so I sat down, I meditated for 12 minutes before the podcast just to get that sediment down so I could have clarity during the podcast. And it really had a big impact on me. I was much more calm and in command of myself. And so I couldn't agree more. I just think, if you, like Lisa said, if you could even just start 1 minute box breathing, breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds. Start at a minute today, and then maybe get to a minute and 15 seconds. Start small and just make incremental growth, because that incremental growth every day or consistently will have that exponential growth down the road somewhere.
Absolutely. Because it helps with those like inner thoughts. It helps with how we speak to ourselves, which helps us how we speak to others, So absolutely, I think focusing on that mindset and that breathing is definitely going to help someone move forward in their decisions and how they interact with others.
I love it. So far, we've gotten a lot of great tips, Bamboo Pack, things that we can, look just right now, just 2 simple things you could do. Hide the junk food and just do box breathing, even for a minute or 2 today, and try to do that every day. Or every once in a while, 4 times a week. And then go up every week a little bit, a few seconds, a minute, or whatever it might be. 2 great tips among many others, but those are 2 that I definitely noted for myself, even though we don't have any junk food in the house right now, other than maybe some chips and Dawson's Covered. I don't know. I don't get not covered very often. Can you talk about healthy sleep? Because this is one where I struggle a lot. Just the impact, and what can we do to get the necessary hours we need of good, solid rest?
Yes, I reverse engineer, I think, is number 1. So, if you think about it, sleep deprivation is a form of psychological torture, right? So that lets you know how important it is, right? You consider that is worse than going without food or water. So sleep is so important. We're talking about our mindset. Sleep's important for our mindset, and also then our physical health, our brain function, and in addition. So, but I think adhering to a sleep schedule and creating that sleep schedule is key. And knowing that, if you have to be up at, talk about Rob and Sharma, right? The 5 a.m. club. If you need to be up at 5 a.m., what time do you need to go to bed in order to have enough sleep, right? So starting there and then working backwards then from that place. So I think it's really important for, to give our bodies the best chance of getting a good night's rest. And that starts with not drinking coffee like right before bed. So about 5 hours before bed, maybe wean off the caffeine. Intense workouts, don't do those like right before bed. I know some people do like to work out before they go to bed. That helps them. If that works for you, great. But for many of us, if we get ramped up and then we shower and go to bed, our bodies don't have enough time to relax. So typically I would say, start with, no intense workouts, stressful work, things like that right before bedtime. And no hearty meals, so no big meals or alcohol 3 hours before bed. So you're allowing your actual physical body time to decompress from the day. So that helps. But you do want to at least get 6 hours of sleep at night, if not more. So that's like a minimum, I think. So when you're reverse engineering that, make sure that you're getting at least 6 hours of sleep. And then creating I think a model evening is really beneficial. Our morning and our night are 2 times of the day we have the most control. So I think if we can have a routine at night, so, if you like to take a bath, or if you like to listen to music, or just things to wind down, very often I think we get in the habit of, go to bed and then watch TV or have our laptops and we're working. That's not allowing our minds or our bodies to decompress from the day. So I think it's important to kind of find what relaxes you and then start to do that earlier in the evening. So your body starts to get in the habit of, okay, now we know we're going to be going to sleep, and relaxing. So that I think is really, the biggest thing you could do is, like I said, just creating that schedule. For me, actually, my nighttime routine was probably a really essential part of my health journey. And what it was is finding what triggered me at night, right? But I think for me, it was the screen. So honestly, I remember, I used to, I'd put my daughter to bed and then I would have my phone and I would just sit in my room. I don't have a TV in my room. I know many do, but it's actually a unhealthy habit. So step number 1, take your TV out of your room. But I used to have my phone in my room, and I remember I'd crawl into bed and I would, mindlessly scroll on Instagram or Facebook or something. And next thing you know, you lose an hour, right? Mm-hmm. But then that trickled into my morning. Well, if I ever woke up in the middle of the night, I would not even think about it, but I'd grab my phone, check an email or, but that also then meant I'm not getting up in time, which then meant I had more hectic morning, which means I probably didn't work out, so it was like this ripple effect. So for me, just to physically take my phone out of my room changed, now I'm reading at night, now I'm going, for, 30 minutes to an hour, and I'm not mindlessly losing an hour or two on a screen, because also the blue light does affect how we sleep too. So, find what works for you, but I would say, creating a nighttime routine, creating that environment in your room that's going to help you, sleep well. If you need a noise machine or, having it dark, having it cool, but giving yourself the, setting yourself up for success, right? So don't expect to work all day, check work email, watch a show, close it, turn off the TV and then fall asleep quickly. It's not going to happen. And if you do, you probably won't get a good night's sleep and you probably won't stay asleep all night. So,
I loved the term model evening. I wrote that down, I circled it, or I underlined it twice, because for me, and anybody who knows me, at least the people who know me personally, know that I'm a very quirky guy in the morning. 4:45, I'm up. I have about a 3-hour routine that I do between physical, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual work, and I don't veer from that. Maybe I did yesterday morning, because I was at my daughter's and my little grandson. I heard him chirping in his bed, in his crib, so I went and got him up, and we watched Odd Bods on my computer. But I had a couple of hours in before I got up. But I don't have a model evening. I really don't. In fact, I don't like evenings. I'm here alone. I don't like those. I love my mornings. I love them. I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. But at nights, I'm like, it's 4:00. Oh, I might as well go to bed at 7 tonight. So I think I'm gonna work diligently on finding a good model evening for me. I don't really watch TV, so I don't have that problem. But even more reading, which I love to do. But a lot of times I'm tired at night, and I get into a novel instead of something that's more intellectual stimulating. But maybe more of that novel reading. Journaling, maybe some meditation at night, maybe a good walk around the neighborhood. I think I'm gonna really look at that. That's a great. I love that term, model evening. It's like the 5 a.m. club, and I think even Robin Sharma talks about having the morning, the bookends of your life are your morning and your evening, and they should be somewhat equally structured. I think that's so good. It's so powerful. What do you think about like I go to bed at night and I don't check emails or texts or anything like that. I never do that, because I know if my kids need me, they'll text me, and their texts all have a separate, and my mom too have a separate, ring or whatever when they text. So, and they know I text our group text every night, 7:30. I'm going to bed. I love you all. So they know I'm going to bed, but I listen to podcasts at night, and I fall asleep listening to a podcast, and I find I wake up and it's another podcast that's kept going. So and it wakes me up again. And so, I like falling asleep to a podcast. I just lose myself in it. And I just, within, 20 minutes, I'm asleep, but it wakes me up. So is that a bad thing, you think, to listen to something while you're sleeping? I mean, I can set the timer so it goes off in an hour, which is what I need to start doing.
I know, because that white noise, it's just, if that works for you, I would say if you wake up feeling refreshed and you feel, that's a good indicator that you've had a good night's sleep. But if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just dragging in the morning, because the snooze button is also a unhealthy habit, right? So if you feel like you have to, we should either be waking up before our alarm, or like when your alarm goes off, get up right away. If you're not feeling refreshed and you feel like you're dragging in the morning, I would say that's an indicator that you're probably not getting a good night's sleep. But if that's working for you, I know a lot of people have to use white noise because it just kind of helps them sleep. So I think if that works for you and it's been working for you and you're feeling good, then absolutely. I think it's more if you're listening to something that's like a thriller podcast and then you can't, wind down, like that would be different. But if you're listening to something that's positive and it's, low key, and you're sleeping great, I think that's perfectly healthy. Okay,
good. Well, I'll just have to set the timer because I do find I wake up at like 1:00 and there's another podcast going. So if I just set an hour timer and it goes off, or even 45 minutes, it'll shut off and then I can continue sleeping. But
right. Because you don't want to wake up because that changes that rhythm and that will affect your sleep over time.
Right. Yeah. I noticed that. One of the things I've learned, Lisa, over the past, I think it's the research came out about maybe 25 years ago, the first research of this that I saw, then I've seen research that has validated this, is when they've interviewed and worked alongside and studied the top 1% of performers in a multitude of industries: business, art, academics, medicine, technology, sports. All of them, for the most part, they had 5 things in common that they did on a consistent basis. And one of them was they made sure they were maniacally focused and religious about their 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Every night. And another one was a second one is they took naps, which is another thing. Yep. And I'm a napper. I'll nap when I feel. I'll take they took naps between 10 and 30 minutes, never longer than 30, because that'll throw your whole rhythm off. But
right, like a quick power nap, is absolutely great. I don't have that gift. I'm kind of envious of those that can. But that is actually a really good thing to do, is if you need a quick power nap, just to, like you said, 15, 20 minutes, and then just get up and move on. It really can help kind of recharge you and get through the rest of the day. And that will help, because it's like when we're tired and we're exhausted, that's when we make our not best decisions, right? So I think that if you are able to do that and recharge, and it might be, like I said, for some, it might be just taking a quick 15, 20 minute, like reading, or meditating or something to kind of recharge. But I think it is, the ability to do that is great to incorporate into a day to kind of help you get through the latter half of the day. Because I think a lot of times people find like that 4:00 in that evening, or when they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm snacking, or I'm yelling at my kids, or, so finding that way to just pause in the middle of the day and recharge, I think is great. Absolutely.
And you said something earlier that I didn't really address, and I think it's really powerful. You said, when you're driving in your car or when you're coming home from work, I think that's a really good time to really reflect. And I've had clients do this, and I've done it, but I don't drive home now to a family of kids. So, but on your way to work in the morning, or, maybe do some box breathing in the car. And when you come home, I've had clients pull over and stop at a roadside park on their way home for 10 minutes and just reflect on the person they want to be when they walk in that door. Shed the stress from the workday, come refreshed for your family. And even doing box breathing for a couple of minutes could do something like that. Reset your mind to the healthy lifestyle that you want to live in the evening when you come home from work, the healthy mind, the lifestyle. So I think that's a really good opportunity for people to really recharge and reset their mind before they come home from work every day, because that will affect everything. What you eat, how you treat your family. Absolutely. I mean, sleep. What about healthy
And
motion?
that's that self-awareness. Yeah, just being
right.
self-aware and then taking that responsibility of like, if I'm reacting in such a way, why am I reacting that way? But if you can stop before that, because you recognize like, I'm a little stressed right now, and work through that before engaging with others or making a decision, everyone will thank you for it.
Yeah. And your scale will eventually too.
Yes.
What is the idea of healthy motion? That was one of the 6 macro habits. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there, when I think of, I work with different people on different levels of fitness, right? And a lot of times we can think of like exercise is I must exercise 30 minutes every day, which is great and is a good goal. But I think there's also a difference between movement and exercise. We can, just moving our bodies and just being aware of little shifts that we can make throughout the day can make a big difference. So, parking a little bit farther away from this, store entrance, or, when you're at work, taking the stairs versus the elevator, standing when you're on the phone versus just sitting all day, and making sure you're standing up straight or sitting up straight, and making sure that you're moving throughout the day. I think it's good to kind of set a goal of, walking, 8 to 10,000 steps a day, and having that goal that you're working towards. But I think we don't have to have this all or nothing mindset of, I must run a mile a day every, day in order to be fit. Yes, healthy exercise and getting our, heart rate elevated is very good for us. But when we're starting small, just think about little things that you can do throughout the day just to get yourself moving more is really important. So, and it's actually funny because I think for me, I really enjoy working out now, but I enjoy working out now that I'm at a healthy weight. So it wasn't fun before, but I also feel like that's a good goal to work towards, So, as you are on your health journey, if you're starting to make a decision to get healthy, maybe just look at little ways like that. And then you can then start to incorporate things that do the things that you like to do. If you hate running, maybe don't take up running, right? Like maybe do yoga or, hiking, right? But if you, so just find things that you love to do or that you like or don't hate doing, maybe, don't go against the grain. And then also really, going back to that habit of, again, if your goal is to exercise, create that habit loop. So creating that, is going to be, having a cue, having a routine, and having a reward. So we get decision fatigue throughout the day. So I feel like the more that we can create is just part of our day versus making a decision is better. So, for example, at night, maybe part of that nighttime routine you have is I set out my clothes for working out in the morning the night before, right? So for one, I've already made this, that this is just what I'm going to do. I'm not going to decide in the morning if I'm going to work out. I'm just going to get up and put my shoes on, and then I put my clothes on. So you kind of set that cue is you get up and you see your clothes that are sitting there, and the routine is you get up, you put your clothes on, and then you go work out, right? So, and then the reward is you're going to feel better, because what often we can do is stop and be like, well, I don't really want to work out, or I can work out later, or, just eliminate that part, just set up, that kind of rhythm and that routine. That's really going to help. I think, once we incorporate that habit, and it takes, a good, on average about 60 days to create a habit. So check the box, on the calendar if that's your goal. Like I'm going to work out, that's in the morning, set things up the night before, and then check the box for the day. And then after you've done that for, a couple months, it's just going to be automatic. But just start small, start with moving your body. And that's a healthy motion.
I think I love that you said have your workout clothes laid out in your bedroom before you go to bed at night. One of the things I do, I hate doing planks. And I've done planks now for about 4 years, 4 or 5 times a week, I'm sorry. And so I literally roll out of bed, I throw my Apple Watch on, and I do my planks within seconds of my eyes opening. And that way, I feel like I'm still half asleep about 2 or 3 minutes into the plank so that I can hold it longer. Because by the time I really wake up is when I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm halfway done already. And so that's helped me a lot. Is being able to do that just right away because I'm going to put a reference to two books that Lisa has alluded to in our interview today, or our conversation: Atomic Habits by James Clear, another one by Mel Robbins, The 5-Second Rule. And she talks in that book extensively about after 5 seconds, you're going to change your mind. So don't think about doing something right. If you're going to go snack on an apple, don't sit there and debate, do I want an apple or a Dorito? You're going to go for the Doritos if you wait too long. If you're waiting to get out of bed in the morning, don't go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. If you're thinking about working out, do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, work out. Start, because that action creates motivation. So I'm going to include in this podcast a link to both of those books for any Bamboo Pack members who want to review those. And I think, Lisa, do you think it's helped a lot in the last few years with the Garmin watches, the Apple watches, the Fitbits, where people can actually see objectively where they are for calories burned or steps walked or minutes worked out?
I do. I think for one, like I wear an Apple Watch, and we talked about like getting up and moving through the day. When it buzzes me, I'm like, oh, I gotta move, So I think it's great just as those like little cues of you've been sitting too long, and I do. So I think they're great. I actually have I've got a couple girlfriends that are on mine too, so we can see what everyone's doing. So it's kind of fun because when you get buzzed that like someone else has finished a workout, I'm like, dang it, I need to get, So I think it's, kind of fun if you have a competitive nature. I do think that we tend to underestimate the calories that we consume during the day. And I do feel like we can, devices can overestimate how many calories we're burning. So I do think that's something to be mindful of.
Okay.
But as far as like just those like reminders and those, like I said, that self-awareness of, am I moving my body? Am I eating, the right things? I think tracking it and having these devices is really helpful.
Well, it kind of goes back to the old adage, we treasure what we measure. And whether it's over exaggerating your calories, if you have a goal and it's working for you of burning 500 active calories or 900 or 1,000 or whatever, if it's working for you, at least you kind of know you can gauge on where, this is what I've been doing for the past 3 months and it's really working. So I want to be near that level every day or whatever, or especially steps. I don't count steps on my watch. I don't think I count. It just does miles, or I don't know what it does. I track three things: number of active calories burned, number of minutes worked out, and number of times, how many hours I was standing up. Like how many times I stood up during the day or whatever. All right. Can we go on now to talking about the last two, which is the first one is healthy eating and hydration. Can you discuss that?
Absolutely. So hydration, and it's probably one that I still have to be the most intentional about, especially in the dead of winter when it's like 30 degrees outside, right? Drinking water, it's not always easy, but it's super important for our bodies. Every function in our body takes place in water. So, and if we don't drink enough, our body's having to recycle dirty water. So to me, that was a motivator, like, ew, I need to drink more water. But it affects our hormones. It affects our antibodies. We talk about my daughter staying healthy or, over the years, or me not getting what she has. I feel like a lot of that is eating well and hydration. But unlike fat, our body can't store water. So we constantly need to be replenishing it. And I think that most of us are probably running around dehydrated. And if you're thirsty, that's a lagging measure, right? Like it's like you are dehydrated if you are thirsty. So staying on ahead of it is key. So you want to shoot for 100 ounces of water. I say at least half your body weight in ounces. Water, it's calorie free. I think you referenced this too in the last podcast, right? It just, it's cheap and it's calorie free. It's really easy. Just drink water. But it also removes a bunch of toxins from our bodies. It helps minimize fatigue, lack of energy, headaches. A lot of times when we feel like we're in that fog, we're dehydrated. A couple tips I find that have helped me, especially, and people that I work with too, is, drink water before coffee, like the first thing in your day. And if you get up and work out, it's great because you probably drank 20 to 30 ounces right out, the gate, which is great. But if you don't work out in the morning, If you typically drink coffee, have a glass of water before you drink your coffee. It's telling yourself it's important, and it's, you've just gone probably 70 hours without having any water, so it starts to hydrate you. I would say, it's okay to, flavor some water too. If you want to have some lemon in it or your cucumber, put some mint leaves in it. So if you're one of those that like, water's boring, add a little flavor to it. That's fine. Drink it warm. I know in the winter when it's super cold, you can have warm water with lemon. That's really good. And they say drinking out of with a straw, find a cup you love, have it with you all the time, in the car, at work, just always have a water bottle with you. And I think one of the biggest things for me too is often when you realize sometimes when we feel like we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. So sometimes with that first initial, like, oh, I'm kind of want a snack, start with a glass of water, take a lap, take a couple minutes, and then see, did that craving or did that subside? Because very often we can think we're hungry, but we're actually thirsty. So that's another, great kind of tip is just, starting with water. And teas, coffees, things like that are all great. I would just avoid fruit juices, sodas, and kind of limiting your alcohol. That
you lost me there. You lost me. You lost me there.
I know.
No, I couldn't.
I said limit.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
You don't have to eliminate it.
The one thing that myself and my kids have always been is pretty big water drinkers, and I mean, if there's a pop or we call them pop here, I know sodas out west. There is a soda or water or a pop in our fridge. It might last. I mean, I think there was a 2-liter in there that I bought when I was at deer camp for people to make drinks with, of Coke, and that was back in October. It's still sitting in our fridge. I don't like pop. I don't like that fizzly. It burns my throat. I never did as a kid really like much either. Soda, pop, whatever. Well, you said something about drink the water. Don't drink it cold. Is that what you said?
You can drink it. You can drink cold water for sure. I'm just saying, but if you struggle, like for me, if it's cold and it's winter, and you're like, oh my gosh, the thought of just drinking, because I'm cold all the time. I'm like, the thought of just ice water does not sound appealing. You can drink warm water, right? So just to kind of find some tips and tricks that help people drink and consume more water. Trying warm water with lemon is a great way to kind of stay hydrated too.
You said it best though when you said cucumber. That is the best water.
Mm-hmm.
I love cucumber water.
Good.
I love it. I think one of the things Dawson got me for Christmas is I don't know, I can't think of the name. It's called Brumati. It's a brand of like a Yeti, but he bought me a 35 ouncer for Christmas, and I love it. And I'm sure it was fairly, they're not, those Yetis and all those other brands are not cheap, but when you just keep it filled up all the time. I mean, as soon as it's empty, I fill it up, and I drink usually about 3.5 to 4 of those a day. And just because it's there and it's always filled, so I don't have to go get up and go to my little purified water container and pour out of it. It's just always filled. As soon as I empty it, I fill it right away. And then even if I'm not thirsty and it's there, I think that's so powerful. See, again, that's one of those things you can do simply, you can do it cheaply, and it can change your life. And I love what you said about drink water before coffee. I think that's so powerful because your body, I always think of it as when I drink my water, I have a banana right away and I drink my water. As soon as I get done with my planks, I come out and I take my vitamins and things. And I feel like it's waking my body up. Like it's getting all my organs moving and everything going in the right direction. So I love that. So water, again, cheap, free for the most part.
I know.
Well, not always free. I mean, I can pay $4 a bottle sometimes when you're at an airport somewhere, but
absolutely.
And then the last one of the macro habits, Lisa, is the one that was healthy weight management. Can you discuss your theory on that?
Yes. So I think I kind of touched on it a little bit, and as far as the quality of our calories, right? Being mindful of what is it that you're eating. So I think a good place to start is tracking. There's like a MyFitnessPal app. You can do a free version of something like that. But, once you've made a decision, if you have a decision to lose weight or, maintain, being aware is key, and I think so it's tracking, because we tend to underestimate how much we eat throughout the day. So I think if every time something crosses your lips, you're like, oh, here I am, just becoming aware. Because I think we can kind of tend to just consume a little bit more that we're not even thinking about and like mindlessly eating. And so that's part of it. A couple of things I would say is, I know you mentioned like fasting. That's something that a lot of people do. I do feel like it's important to not skip breakfast. Obviously, eating within the first hour, if not at least 30 minutes to an hour when you wake up, so have your water and having something to eat really gets our body starting the day right. We tend to, if we skip breakfast and then all of a sudden we're like super hungry later in the day, we are maybe not going to make the best choices. I think it's better to eat like 5 to 6 small meals throughout the day than it is to a lot of people will just like, oh, I have skipped breakfast and I have a massive dinner, Eat a little bit throughout the day. I think right now I talked to, when I started this, I didn't remember what fad diet I did, but, it's not about a fad diet. It's just about eating, a well-balanced meal. Carbs are not the enemy, but just maybe choosing the right carbs, right? Plant-based fruits, vegetables, nuts, things like that. It's the processing of foods and the sugars that make things unhealthy. So, eating from the perimeter of the store, right? And really just being aware that, not every calorie is created equal, right? It is a matter of, what's coming in and what's going out, but just being aware of what you're actually eating. So starting there, but I think that planning ahead is really key. We tend to make not the best decisions when we're, we're like I said, we're driving through drive-through because we didn't plan dinner, or, we're having to go out for lunch, because we didn't pack a lunch at work, or, so planning ahead for, our families and for ourselves is really key. And then writing a shopping list and sticking with it. So I would say, those are kind of some key things that people can just kind of start to incorporate right now. I do work a lot with clients one-on-one on like their nutrition based on their health goals and their, needs. So an actual, but meal planning and prepping is going to really go a long way. And I would say with focusing on the nutrition and not trying to outrun a bad fork. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but really we can tend to, in that diet mindset of like, well, if I eat the cake, I'm going to have to go run a mile, right? Well, an extra 100 calories a day actually translates to about 36,000 plus calories of excess energy over a year. So even if our bodies just store half of that, that's an extra 5 pounds of fat a year. So, we could try burning those calories off with exercise alone, but in order to do that, just to burn off 1 pound would be running 33.8 miles. So we go back to that 30 pounds that we might want to lose. That's 40 marathons. So keeping that in perspective, I think it's really important to focus on, like I said, what is the quality of the nutrition you're eating, and don't have that mindset of like, again, one piece of cake isn't bad. It's doing it every night. And why are we doing it every night? That's really important to focus on. But then also just knowing that if you can have a well-balanced nutrition and not have that mindset of, oh, well, if I, do this every night, I can just work out extra hard. Well, you have to work out real hard to burn off a lot of extra calories. So,
and think about 5 pounds of fat. Like think about 5 pounds of butter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's I always look at fat as that way. I look at 5 pounds of butter and think, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy. Like I said, if you put on that every year, are you going to go run 40 marathons every year? No, no.
Wow.
But if you think it's really, we very easily think about going over the holidays and stuff like that. Just being aware, and being mindful. Like I said, we have string together more wins than losses and making better choices overall. It helps, but we just don't want to have that mindset of, well, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go for a run. Well, you better really like running. So.
I think that's the coolest phrase. Don't try to outrun a bad fork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. So you're saying it's probably better to graze during the day, 5 or 6 smaller meals than it is to binge on 1 or 2 big meals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You want to keep your blood sugars level throughout the day because it really is going to help from not having the cravings. Because again, when we're fighting a craving and we're fighting hunger and we're trying to make the best decision possible, we're just not setting ourselves up for success really. So kind of starting from the moment you wake up, just having a little bit and keeping those blood sugars level throughout the day, all day long. And then, it's really going to help. You're more, and you're going to feel like you're not like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. Cause I ate breakfast and now it's 5 PM. You're probably going to be snacking on a meal's worth of food while you're making dinner,
that's really good.
Or you're going to order the appetizer because you can't wait for the dinner to come, so it's things like that. Just, kind of a little bit throughout the day is best.
Well, Lisa, before I'm going to ask you to give some closing remarks in a minute here, I just want to share that, I find myself very maniacal about what I put in my body and exercise. And the only thing I really do struggle with is sleep. And I can't tell you, in the hour and 13 or 15 minutes we spent together, I actually turned my my page over that I normally take notes on. I have a second sheet in the back, and that's completely filled. So I have no more space. But I have learned, I'm going to say probably, I circled 5 different things that I had no idea about that I can start implementing, from box breathing. I think that was in model evening. Having a model evening is so powerful. What's the other one? Well, the drinking water when I do that, but I love that you said it. Without water, our body just circulates, recycles dirty water without drinking fresh water. Don't try to outrun a bad fork. I mean, there's so many things. I don't know if I can include a link to the MyFitness app, but I'm definitely going to mention that in the podcast text version of the podcast, so that people can look at that one, or some type of tracking. So this is good stuff. So what I was thinking as we were talking today, Lisa, I think it would be important for us to come back on and do a third episode, maybe mid-year, or at just to say, okay, it's checkup time. Everybody had, how is your healthy lifestyle going? And then, or maybe closer to the end of the year as people start to get into the holidays, the Thanksgivings, the Christmases, the New Year's, and how can we be more aware during that time of, obviously letting ourselves indulge a little bit, but let's not go overboard because nobody has time to do 40 marathons.
Right.
So can you share any closing remarks you want to share with the Bamboo Pack and myself? I got to find another piece of paper though.
I know there's so much to go over. I'm like, how do I touch on a little bit of all this?
I didn't know how we were going to do it, and I still know that there's so much more to go. That's why I think we need to do a third episode.
Yeah. So I would just say, progress is really going to require some unlearning. Like you just talked about, you're like, I never thought about that, but really just not focusing on stopping a bad habit, but focusing on creating a new good one, and focusing on the mindset. I think when we talk about habits, we talk about how our mindset and how we position ourselves makes a difference. So if you're trying to quit smoking, instead of saying, I'm quitting smoking, say I'm a non-smoker. So, that's creating a good, healthy, mindset around who you are and who you're becoming. Because achieving your health goals isn't about just making a big drastic lifestyle change though. It's about practicing these small healthy habits and integrating them over time, and being consistent daily. You really just want to, you want to marry the actions that you're doing and divorce the results, right? So don't focus on the scale. Focus on why it is that you want to achieve these goals. Focus on your motivation for, who is it going to affect, your family, how are you going to feel when you get there? Focus on those and focus on the habits of it, because the results will come. Our habits are, they make us. So if you can focus on that, you will become that person. And just start to see the wins, start small, recognize the wins, be patient with yourself. This change is not going to happen overnight. You don't go to the gym once and end up with 6-pack abs, right? So just take time and know that the results will come. And it's not going to be perfect either. So just know that if you make a poor choice or, things aren't going as well, you only fail if you quit. So just don't quit. Just keep moving forward. And I touched on this before, but just on the last podcast, but do not do it alone. Have an accountability partner, have a coach. I'm happy to, chat with people about what their goals are, but just tell someone what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because like Nick said, it just helps with that accountability and it helps with your support and the people that are rooting for you when you have a hard time doing it for yourself. So I think that's kind of what I got for you today.
I'm going to recommend anyone out there who's really looking to increase and improve their lifestyle to where you are now, to a healthy lifestyle all around, not just your weight, obviously, not just the scale, but just a healthier lifestyle. I can't stress enough, as coaching for 26 and a half years now, I've just realized in the last 5 years as I've worked with clients on the impact a healthy lifestyle has on every single aspect of your life. Like I said earlier, relationships, your money, your success, your popularity, all the things that we want in life. So much of that is predicated on a healthy lifestyle. And I want to, before I say goodbye to you, Lisa, I want to share with the Bamboo Pack something that I've been working with clients on lately that kept coming to my mind as you were talking today. And it's really, when you think about all of this, the ultimate goal is happiness. That's really what we all want. That's the apex of living, is happiness. And you really aren't truly happy if you're sitting down watching 8 hours of Breaking Bad and eating Doritos or Cheetos every day on the couch. You're just not. You might think you're content, but you're not happy. And if you look at happiness as a pie chart, and you put that pie chart, a big circle in front of your face right now, and you cut that circle in half, 50% of your happiness is based on your genetics, your DNA. Your mom, your dad, and your grandparents for generations have either passed on a good DNA or a bad DNA when it comes to your happiness. It seems sad, but you have to accept it. You have to accept that's the luck of the draw. 10% of your happiness in life are all the things we think about every day. The house we live in, the car we drive, how much toys we have, assets, income, money, popularity, how good looking we are. All those together only make up 10%. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a nicer car or a nicer home or more money or be better looking or be more popular. But we can't control those things. We can only influence those. Those can be gone in a second. But there's only 40% of our happiness that we have full control over. And I always tell people, focus on the 40, focus on the 40. And that is what behavioral scientists call your intentional activities. The things you do intentionally to make yourself a better human. Things that are positive and things that are productive. Working out, exercising, eating better, taking vitamins or supplements, helping other people, making an extra sales call if you're in sales, or meditation, anything that you can do and you do it intentionally, that's positive and productive for you and or for other people. That right there, over time, is going to increase your level of happiness beyond what you can possibly imagine. And everything Lisa has talked about here, every single thing I wrote down on 2.5 sheets of paper, are all intentional activities. And these are keystone activities. I mean, taking care of having a healthy lifestyle spreads to every other part of your life, your spiritual life, obviously your physical, your emotional life, your intellectual life, your financial life. I mean, everything is vastly impacted by this. And it's the one area we have a lot of control over. You can decide to, like she said, if you're not going to work out, go to the gym, work out, motion, move around, throw away the junk food or get rid of it. Make it difficult to get to. Put the healthy food in front. Put the phone away at night. Get that 6 to 8 hours of sleep. I mean, all these things are all intentional activities. I learned so much today that I'm going to start incorporating over the next week into my habits during the day. And I really love, Lisa, again, man, model evening. I love that. I love that term. So that's giving me something to think about. I might crack a gin and tonic tonight, but it might be part of my model evening because it is Friday. But I'm going to really look into how I can make more of an effective evening for myself. So I appreciate that. So if you're okay with it, we'll talk maybe after the podcast here for a moment, but I'd like to get you back on sometime this year. I just think we're still scratching the surface, and I think this is a very important and a very sought after information that people really want out there. So if you're okay with it, let's try to get you back on sometime in 23.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
Well, for the second time in 2023, Lisa McBride, I just want to thank you for being such an amazing and inspiring guest on the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Thanks so much, Brian, for having me.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week. Please hit that like button, rate, review us, and please share this episode of Lisa McBride talking about you can't outrun a bad fork and healthy lifestyle and healthy living. Share it with 3 people you love. This is game-changing stuff. This is potentially life-changing, potentially life-saving stuff. In the meantime, everyone, please get out there and sculpt your life. Please get out there and strive to be your best. Show love and respect to others, and by all means, live intentionally. And I hope every one of you out there know that I appreciate you a great deal. Take care.